Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to look at a bunch of different films. As you can probably see, I'm still getting my thing ready, my studio set up for what I'm doing here. So it's it's not great. I've got a new microphone. I got a new camera a few months ago, but I think I'm going to have to change it because it's not particularly great. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still kind of figuring it out. So just bear with me. Today I'm going to talk a bunch of films. I'm going to talk about the Sicario films. I'm going to talk about Peter Pan and Wendy, which is a Disney Plus thing. And I'm also going to talk about the Dracula 2000 trilogy, both of which are, both subjects are, what the hell is this? Then I'm going to do a general video about what I've seen recently that are films I couldn't do a full video on, but a partial video is probably fine. So I'll just do it all in one. So that's the plan for today, and I hope that's of interest to some of you. So I'm going to start off with the Sicario films, which I saw at the time of the releases. I saw Sicario, then I saw Soldado, which is the sequel. The first one is directed by Denis Villeneuve. The second one is directed by Stefano Sollima, who's the son of Sergio Sollima, whose films I've been covering recently. They're both written by Taylor Sheridan, who also did Wind River, and he's been writing a lot of stuff and TV, like the Yellowstone, things like that. So he's fairly big now. What I should say is these are very good films, but they've been taken as, well, basically being like factual. Like this is what's going on at the Mexican border. When they're thrillers, that's what they are. They're taking something that's going on in the world and expanding on it for a drama. It's like just the same way Traffic did in the past, the same way most films do. I think the big problem is when people make films, people think, see, is it realistic? And it's like, who cares? It's never going to be realistic. The thing about real life has so many mistakes made, things covered up, things are done awkwardly, and it start stops. There's never any kind of overall revenge that happens. And if a revenge happens, tends to be the person tends to get caught. A lot of stuff that in drama you don't want to happens in real life because it would slow down the momentum of the story. So there's been things people ask them, is this realistic? And it's like, kinda, but kinda not. That's the best you can possibly do. All you can really do is take what exists as a problem and then dramatize it, and then, you know, try and hide all the genre tropes as much as you can. But they're still gonna be there. It's still something that's a problem within filmmaking and writing. There's something that's never going to get solved because real life just is not like drama. Drama is something specific, and I think if you want real life, you just have to leave the cinema and actually just go out and you experience it quite a lot, both ups and downsides. It's not as dramatic as drama, which is a kind of a take on life but expanded into something more interesting. It's not that. It doesn't have the boredom of real life. So I think we should look toward, does it reflect things that happen in life in some ways, but may also try and make it more interesting? Because always in this is based on what happened in real life. There's always a setting, an explanation. Since like the 30s with the gangster movies, oh yeah, this is real life. No, it's not. The original Scarface is real life. No, it's not. The remake of Scarface is real life. No, it's not. It's a stylization. It's taking what happened in real life. Like in the remake of Scarface, they took the Cuban immigrants and a lot of the gangsters that came from that and brought it up into, the gangsterism of remaking Scarface. That's what happens in drama. Even something like Goodfellas is like, oh, this is highly realistic, or Casino. If you read the books they're based on, you realize just how much they change to make it interesting, how much to make it dramatic. So even if they have the suggestion of real life, it's not actually real life. it's been dramatized. It's hard to actually imagine how you have to see this, but it's something you keep seeing, especially when you read reviews of films like this. Oh, it's so realistic. And it's like, it just shows how stupid some reviewers are. It's not realistic. It's a look at, they've done research. It takes things that have happened, but it's within a thriller format. It's a thriller. It's our two thrillers. They have two very different thrillers, actually. I mean, the big problem Sicario 2 had ultimately was that it wasn't Sicario 1 because it had different aims and different character beats and different philosophies of what the film should be. So it's a different story. And people just wanted to sit the original story redone, you know, for the second film, and you didn't get that. So that was one of the big problems. That's what happened to a lot in sequels. Like, I wanted the same thing again. Or I wanted to move on with all the characters in it, and this one didn't quite do that either. So I'll start with Sicario. Sicario takes place on the Mexican border, where it starts off with a raid on a drug dealer's house by various federal agents who had a tip off. They're going in and they find in the walls of the houses all these dead bodies, which makes them really annoyed because they're in there just to get these to rescue someone who had been kidnapped, and what they find is a death camp basically. Which the Wire used this storyline well before. It's something that happens in crime, and instantly you see that you think, oh, it must be highly realistic. Well, it's highly realistic in the sense that it's been done so many times in films and books. It's like, yeah, we've seen this one. This is like and I'm sure it's done in life too, but it's one of those things. It's like, as soon as you do that, it's almost like it's a sign the film is super, super, super realism. So the story after that, Emily Blunt was one of the people leading the raid, and she's called in after she's angry what happened to this back door meeting with these various people who are tied to CIA, although they will never admit where they come from, and they're tied to people who are going over into Mexico, who want to get revenge and I want to find out who did this. That's their way of. That's what they're saying they're doing. In actual fact, they're doing other stuff. They have people they want to take out, and the general idea of this film is they're trying to stabilize the drug market so that there's no gangs killing each other all the time. Because what their view as you go into the film is, as you go through the film, you find out their point of view is America likes drugs, so, and because they can't stop Americans buying drugs, all they can really do is hope to stabilize it in Mexico so that violence doesn't break out all the time in Mexico, so that all the bribes take place. But it's an American it's a problem coming from America that's affected Mexico, which is a definite point of view, because as America buys all these drugs and the Mexican economy gets clobbered by because all these guys become drug dealers and then they transport to America, and that's how they make a lot of money illegally through violence because of big profits. So the Americans know they can't stop the drugs from coming in. They can do whatever they can, but there's no way they can stop it all, or even a percentage of it, really. So they just have to try and stabilize what's there, stabilize what's going on, and actually say, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we can stabilize what's going on in the industry. And the film basically follows Emily Blunt. She learns all of this. She learns the techniques, how they're trying to squeeze out one of the big guys who are in charge. To take him out, they can just put the person they want in charge, and it can stabilize the thing. And basically, that's what Josh Brolin's doing in the first one. He wants to just stabilize it. Benicio del Toro plays like the Sicario, who's the hitman, the Mexican hitman, who was an attorney whose family was killed brutally by the cartels, and he's out for revenge. And his way of getting revenge is actually to work with these Americans to actually help them get what they want. So they're going in the same path. They want similar things. He wants revenge on the guy that they're targeting. So they work together. And it shows you a lot of time people work together for similar aims, even if they've got the reasons for the aims are different. And Del Toro is basically the mysterious figure in the center of the film who you're trying to work out what he's really about. Emily Blunt plays a character who's actually trying to figure it out as well, but she's coming from being basically an agent who has strict rules of what she can and can't do, and she will keep working to try and keep this investigation, lawful and focused, really. And it's been her discovery of just how, jinx the system is. Like, she's basically there to make this operation legal. They don't really want her, they just want to have her sign off to say this is legal. And they'd rather her not be around, but they have to have her around for legalities. And it's just like showing you how dirty it actually is to do this. These drug operations. Now, is this realistic? Well, I'm sure there's operations that you don't want to know that much about within the drug cartels, within the American government as they interact. But probably nothing as fanciful or as plotted as this. This is where it's like, of course, this is entirely real. If they try to do this, they'd mess it up and make a total mess of it. So it's realistic to a sense of it's trying to look at what the policies are of the countries, and then to make a thriller out of it, and have characters who interact, who have growth, and who have stakes. And it's about the damage is done to people on both sides of the border, whether you're a lawman who has to work with cartels to make a living, whether you're a police officer or an FBI agent on the American side dealing with the corrupt banks, the corrupt nature of finance around the cartels, things like that. All that stuff happens, but it does not happen to the degree it happens in the film because it's set up as a thriller. And as you go through, it's a thriller. It's not meant to be high realism with all the stops and starts you get from, life. And it's a very good thriller. I mean, it's not my favourite Villeneuve film, but it's really well made. The characters are all interesting. The problems are all interesting. The general sense of Blunt's character going through Mexico and seeing the grabs they have of people and seeing the dead bodies lying in the streets and things like that. Because it's set at its worst. It's based on what was going on in 2010 when it was actually worst over there. Where there's much more fighting for control of areas. So it takes a what's there, but it does fictionalize it. So everything's kind of neat in some ways to get the plot moving, but it's also trying to show how messy the situation actually is. So it's realistic, but not realistic. The plot mechanics are not realistic, but what's trying to say about the problem probably has a lot of ties to what's going on and the various people who are wanting revenge on certain cartels for certain reasons. But in this case, they have a super villain in Benicio del Toro who can do lots of things that most mere mortals cannot. And they bring in someone, Emily Blunt, who does not know all of this stuff, but because she's a proper cop, it means she feels realistic without being stupid and asking questions she shouldn't ask. So they do keep it realistic while having a character who's like, what, why, where, when. So it's a very good film. Now, Sicario 2 does not have Emily Blunt's character. She, her story ends in part 1, and they're smart enough not to bring her back and not try and create a new story for her. Instead, it's looking at the Del Toro characters and Josh Brolin characters, who were prominent in the first one, who dominated in lots of ways, but who you saw from her point of view. And the second where you've seen it from their point of view as you go through a different operation. This time, there's been a terrorist attack in America, and they think some of the terrorists came through Mexico, and the cartels let them through and paid them for safe passage. So it's all about people coming over the border, who helps create the system of people over the border, how the system people over the border actually makes a lot more money for them than drugs sometimes. And just the thing is, America is now people smuggling is now a big profit thing for them, and it's something they can make a lot of money off. And it's a mechanism of that, and how do you take advantage, how do you stop it? But also, at this point, because of this trouble, they decide they don't actually want the cartels to be unified, because they think that the unification of the cartels have actually made them greedy and lazy, and they're letting some of this through for cash. So they want to break it up and make sure there's no one strong at the top. So they send in Del Toro and Josh Brolin to do Black Ops there, to really mess with them, to make them fight each other, make them paranoid about each other. And to do that, they set up a few people, they kill a few people, they kidnap the daughter of one of the main cartel leaders, and they're going to try and make it look like she was kidnapped by the guy's enemies, and then hand her back and make her think the FBI saved her. All of this is going well, but someone gets wise, there's something off, and they get attacked, and in Mexico, and suddenly Del Toro and the girls on the run. Roland is brought back to America, and because of the mess, the mission's been cancelled, so they have to cut ties. And it's sort of like what happens in operation once everything's gone wrong and you cut ties, and no one wants the collateral collapse coming back on them, and all the kind of shifty things that happen in Black Ops when people have been doing things that are slightly illegal, and if they get caught, they're going to jail. Now, they don't mind doing things illegal as long as they don't get caught. And the second half of the movie is about that. So it's a very different film. It's a much colder film. But I think it's really good. But again, it's not realistic. I mean, it's realism is like it would be a mess and everyone die instantly. That would be it. Black bag, everything. But now, because they need to have a heroic character in Del Toro, or a dark heroic character, he has to try and survive and try and get through this situation and push through from against the odds. So you have a lot of tropes for American audience. So they can't brutally just have him killed halfway through or something. And it means you kind of have to maybe not cover the cartels or the American side as much as you like. You're stuck with you're with these two characters and Josh Brolin's character, who's trying to help them from the outside, and it's all the characters rather than the politics, because how the politics affect the characters. And the kind of maneuvers they try and make to help their friends even when things are going wrong. So there's lots and lots of difficulties and lots of things that go on that are problems for the characters. But it's a much better film than its reputation. It got that reputation of was a sequel. Like, oh, it's not as good as the first one, because we had Emily Blunt in the first one. We really liked her. We liked some of those scenes with having Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin. And this one is much colder. The lead actress, a Mexican actress who was in Dora, The Lost Explorer, and she's in Transformers. She's really good. Isabella something Foden, I think. She's really good with Del Toro and on her own, and she's terrific. But it's a character you're going to be distanced from because she's a daughter of a drug dealer. Plus, you know, she can't stick up for herself, and there's a lot of it's trying to survive in a very much more colder environment in this one. But you also see humanity emerge through these environments, which again is tropes of a warmer world around the thriller elements. But it also is drama, because you need interesting things to happen. So again, it's not realistic, but it is trying to reflect things that happen in real life, but you need a drama. And as the film goes on, it goes down some darker paths. A bit American actual allegiance to what they're actually about and what they're really wanting in certain things, and how some of their operations say they're wanting one thing, but they're really wanting something else, and how a lot of people are killed for political gain that ultimately doesn't matter, and how the small man is crushed by the whims of the cartels, the whims of the American government, and how it's just like survival is a big thing. And the big thing with this film is just survival is the key, just trying to survive. And it's also how that survival technique kind of bruises some people and makes them harder and darker. There's a character in the second one who starts off as a drug smuggler, or drug smuggler, people smuggler through the, and then as the film goes on, he gets much darker. His fate is fairly dark by the end of it, and with him, it's almost like how do you become a Sicario, and that's his story really. The film is just both films are very good, but they are thrillers. They're not realism. Both have terrific scenes. I mean, the most one of the most powerful scenes at the end where Del Toro goes to Emily Blunt and when she's like, "You need to sign this paper," and it's a threat without threatening, which is a terrific thing because she knows she's been threatened. Like they need this to say that they'd have been legal, and it's just those kind of moments that really work. There's more of those moments in the first one that really make you squirm with the character because you're a lead character who you can identify with a bit in the first one. In the second one, you're more at a distance because you're watching people who you really can't identify as much with. But that makes it more interesting in some ways because it is you're watching a game between people who are not entirely sympathetic to what you want in a film. So they're different in lots of ways. So I really enjoyed both of them. I hope you enjoyed this. This is me for now on Sicario. I don't think there's much more I can say about it. But I'll be back very soon with a double bill of what the hell is this. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.